the NFL season isn't even finished yet, and Giants fans are already looking forward to next year. After a crazy weekend of watching and waiting, we finally have an answer. John Harbaugh is the next head coach of the New York Giants, and he'll hold that position for the next 5 years. He'll reportedly make $20 million a season and will hopefully bring this team back to relevancy. Joining me now is the team's pregame and postgame host on WFAN, John Schmeelk. And John, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're just as excited about this as the fans are.
Look, I think everyone has to be. When you could bring in an established winner like John Harbaugh, who knows how to win football games, which, as we saw over the weekend in the playoffs, even some really good players on your team, can be very difficult. You hope it's the beginning of a new era, the same way hiring Tom Coughlin was the beginning of a new era about 20 or so years ago.
Yeah, reputable guy for sure. Now, we found out that he accepted the job at the end of last week, but he didn't sign on that dotted line until Saturday, I think. Talk about why the deal took so long to finalize.
Well, look, I mean, these are complicated contracts, first and foremost, right? I mean, so many pages, so much money is involved. And, you know, unlike normal coaching contracts, when you're hiring like a first-time coordinator or something like that, when you have a guy that's coming in that has 18 years of head coaching experience, he's going to have certain preferences and ideas, and, you know, he's going to want things to be handled a certain way. So I think there are a lot more details involved with a contract like that with a guy like Harbaugh that you have to figure out. And I'm sure that's what they were working on. And you know, these are probably some things that the Giants maybe have never even put in coaching contracts before. Again, based on the specificity, I'm sure Harbaugh required. Remember, every NFL team that had a coaching vacancy, and now we are up to 10 total this offseason, by the way, with the Bills firing Sean McDermott this morning, that, you know, Harbaugh could basically dictate what he wanted in this search. When teams were hiring, you know, interviewing Harbaugh, they weren't really interviewing him. Harbaugh was interviewing the teams. So when that's the case and you come to, you know, putting together a contract like this, it's going to be a little more complicated. I never had any doubt it was going to get done. Once the Giants, you know, came to a non-official agreement, there was no way ownership was going to allow him not to be the head coach. So sometimes details take a little bit longer with certain types of contracts, and I think that's all this was.
Yeah, Harbaugh has that kind of pull where he's interviewing them, like you said. Now, he had an amazing 18-season run with the Baltimore Ravens. What can he bring to the Giants that's been lacking for the team the last few years?
Well, I think stability, for one. If you include the interim head coaches, you know, since 2016, the Giants have had 6 different coaches. And that's too many. You know, John Harbaugh was in one place for 18 years. Tom Coughlin was here for a similar period of time with the New York Football Giants, 2004 to 2015, 12 years. So, you know, when you take a look at that type of stability, it allows you to build a program and put your building together in a certain way that you know can be successful, and there's a consistency. And, you know, Harbaugh knows how to deal with players. He knows what it takes to win when it comes to putting a staff together, when it comes to what he requires from the players, what's necessary to do in the practice field, in the meeting rooms, all that sort of stuff. He knows what it takes to win because he's done it. He's won a Super Bowl. He's done it at the highest level. And, you know, what I'd say is the most telling thing, 18 years in Baltimore, he only had 1 year when he won fewer than 8 games. And that is an amazing number, given how many crazy things can happen in the National Football League. You look at the Giants, since their 2013 season, so that's 13 years, they've only had 2 years where they've won 8 games or more. So it's a diametrically opposed type of deal here. So I think that's what you look for from John Harbaugh as he comes in here and tries to establish another good stretch of play from the New York Giants, something that they've been sorely lacking over the past decade plus.
Yeah, it's time. It's time for a change, and hopefully we get it this year. Now, how do you think Harbaugh will fit in with the team's young offensive core with Malik Neighbors, Cam Skattebo, and now Jackson Dart as the quarterback?
Well, we have to see who his coordinators are going to be, right? You know, because John Harbaugh is what, you know, people like to call a CEO head coach. He's not going to call offensive plays. He's not going to call defensive plays. He's going to have an offensive coordinator. He's going to empower that guy to run that side of the ball. Same on defense, same on special teams. So I think it all depends who the offensive coordinator is going to be. There are a lot of reports out there that Todd Monken, who was his offensive coordinator in Baltimore the last 3 years, helped to run tremendous offensive years. You know, 2 years ago, they had one of the best offenses statistically in the history of the National Football League. Lamar Jackson could have easily won the MVP that year. He was neck and neck with Josh Allen. So, you know, if he's the guy, he knows how to use a mobile quarterback. He knows how to, move the ball up and down the field, balance, run, and pass. So I think if that's what the hire ends up being, and look, they have to go through a hiring process. They have to follow the Rooney Rule and stuff like that. John Harbaugh, one thing he's been very good at in Baltimore is filling out a coaching staff. You remember, when you win consistently, teams are constantly hiring your OC, hiring your DC to become head coaches. You keep losing assistants, but he managed to replenish and keep hiring new assistants. So I think whoever winds up with that OC job is going to do a good job, and he's going to make the most out of Jackson Dart and those fun pieces on offense.
Now, talk a little about the dynamic between Harbaugh and general manager Joe Schoen, because from what I got, Schoen will have less decision-making power now.
Yeah, I mean, one report that was out there that John Harbaugh will be reporting directly to ownership instead of reporting to the general manager. I'm sure John Harbaugh will talk about that at his press conference, which will take place at the Giants facility on Tuesday, and exactly how that structure is going to work. But look, when John Harbaugh comes in as an 18-year proven winner, he's going to have say in personnel. I don't think he's going to be able to just overrule the general manager and say, no, I'm doing this. And Joe Schoen's going to be sitting there like, all right, there's nothing I can do about that. This is still going to be a collaborative process where these guys work together and they come to a consensus, what's best for the building and best for the team. But make no mistake about it, when you land the big fish, the whale in the room, like John Harbaugh, he is going to have a ton of say in personnel decisions and everything else that goes on in that building. So I don't think Joe Schoen is he's still going to run scouting. He's going to run the draft. He's going to do all that. He's going to work with the head coach to draft the best players. I don't think any of that is going to change.
Now, will the hiring of John Harbaugh affect any moves the Giants intended to make this offseason or any picks they would make in the draft?
Yeah, and again, I think I go back to who the coordinator is going to be. I think that's a part of it. What do you want your scheme to look like? So what players then do you need to run that type of offense and defense that you want to run? But I think the second part of it is, and this happens when any head coach goes to a new team, do you want to bring some players that were with you at your old stop that understand your culture, the way you do things, how you practice, run meetings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the Ravens do have some free agents this year. Patrick Ricard, who's kind of their big fullback offensive lineman combo player, I think is an interesting guy. Tyler Linderbaum, their Pro Bowl center, is a free agent. Giants have John Michael Schmitz. I'm not sure that's where they would go, given how expensive that would be. But it would not surprise me if Harbaugh goes back into his days with the Ravens to find some players that played for him there that he would bring in here that would help teach the rest of the players that are in that building, in that locker room, exactly what John Harbaugh wants out of them, and how this building is going to run.
Now, John, I want to preface this next question by saying I was 0 for 4 with my picks. Another big deal this weekend was the playoffs. Any thoughts on those games this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think a few things come to mind. Number one, I don't think any of these teams are great football teams in that, where you have a dominant offense, dominant defense, and, this is going to go down as one of the best teams in NFL history if they win a Super Bowl. I think the closest team to that is probably Seattle. But, I still don't trust their offense to be super explosive when they have to be. But they have a tremendous defense. Man, is it good. I felt real bad for Josh Allen going out of the playoffs. And for once, I thought it was on him. He's gotten knocked out of the playoffs a bunch of times before when I think he's played really well and his teammates have let him down. In this game, Josh Allen did not get the job done. He missed Dawson Knox late for a touchdown. He had a couple of bad turnovers in the game. The Bo Nix injury is tough, man. To win that game, and then Sean Payton goes to the podium afterwards. Oh, by the way, our starting quarterback fractured his ankle. He's out for the rest of the year, and you got to start your backup quarterback the rest of the way. I do think that takes some juice out of the final, out of the AFC Championship game next week. And I'm not going to say it paves the way for the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl. I think the Broncos still have a chance to win that game, but it certainly makes things a lot easier. But I do think the two best teams right now are in the NFC. So I think whichever team wins between the Rams and the Seahawks are probably going to be the favorite when you get to the Super Bowl, given the strength of those two rosters. So I think right now that the power in the NFL lays in the NFC with all those big-time AFC quarterbacks like, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen all knocked out. I think Seahawks or Rams are probably your two favorites now moving forward.
Awesome stuff. John Schmeelk, host of the Giants pregame and postgame show on WFAN. Thanks so much, and we'll look forward to next year with Harbaugh at the helm now.
Always appreciate it. Thanks, man.
All right, we'll be right back. Well, a college basketball scandal has swept the nation after federal prosecutors say games across the country were fixed. As many as 26 players have been charged in the scheme, which involves schools as close as Fordham and LaSalle universities. Joining me now is Raj Gadhok, co-chair of litigation with Mandelbaum Barrett PC in Roseland. He's here to give us some legal context on the matter. Raj, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. So, Raj, before we get into the scandal, can you talk a little about your background as a lawyer and how you came to represent leaders in the world of sports and entertainment?
Sure. Well, easy. Sports has always been a passion of mine since childhood, and I was always focused on becoming a lawyer. While certainly not an easy area to break into, I was fortunate enough early in my career to take on representation of a former professional athlete in a case which garnered a lot of media attention, and it served as a springboard for me into the sports and entertainment world, where I now represent professional athletes, coaches, I represent franchises, and student athletes on the amateur level in a variety of legal matters.
It's a dream job for a lot of people, actually. So can you give us a background on this NCAA scandal and what was going on exactly?
Sure. So from what I've been able to gather, at this point, the federal government has been investigating what they refer to as a transnational criminal scheme to fix NCAA Division I basketball games, as well as some professional Chinese Basketball Association games. The indictments handed down were secured by federal prosecutors. It involves 26 different individuals, including a number of former college basketball players, team trainers, and some other high-stakes sports gamblers. The court papers, which I've taken a review of, they reference attempts to fix the final scores of 29 different games by way of point shaving, which is perhaps the most serious violation in terms of the integrity of the game.
So crazy. Now, in scandals like this, who approaches the student athletes about getting involved, and how much were these student athletes being offered?
Well, every case is different, but from what's being reported here, it seems that the student athletes were approached by team trainers and perhaps others, some with and without team association, who were in contact with significant professional sports gamblers. According to the indictment, and again, it's important to consider that these are just allegations at this point. These players were generally paid in the range of $10,000 to $30,000 per game. With respect to the allegation regarding fixing in the Chinese Basketball Association, there was an allegation that somebody received as much as $200,000.
Serious money we're talking about. Now, point shaving and game fixing scandals date all the way back to the 1950s, but gambling has become more mainstream in recent years. It's become legalized in New Jersey. And now the NCAA has a very strict policy when it comes to student athletes taking part. What kind of rules are currently in place for that?
So let me just start by saying illegal gambling is a hard no. But when it comes to legalized gambling, NCAA student athletes are strictly prohibited from placing bets on college sports and any professional sport which has a college equivalent. There's been some recent discussion regarding amending the rule to permit wagering on certain professional sports in certain circumstances, given the current social landscape, as you mentioned, that we're living in. But as of now, it's still banned.
Now, if the students are convicted, this won't just affect them. The schools, coaches, and the NCAA could also be sanctioned, from what I understand. What kinds of penalties could they be looking at?
So again, focused on this particular case, it's my understanding that most of the student athletes involved are no longer in school. So I don't know that the NCAA can sanction them in any material way in terms of eligibility or anything like that. But if it's found that staff members were in fact involved, coaches were involved, the university, head coaches, those who were involved with these teams may have to deal with infractions such as failure to monitor, lack of institutional control. You hear a lot of these terms in the news when it comes to these big scandals. There could be significant suspensions, ban from postseason play, and forfeiture of prior successes.
Wow. Now, do you think the information that's been released is just the tip of the iceberg? Will the FBI, in your opinion, uncover much more than what's been uncovered?
I'm sure they will be. It's again, it's hard to say without knowing internally what's going on in the investigation in this case. But I would expect that there will be much more information and evidence that's yet to come. Witnesses will be interviewed. Perhaps certain defendants will speak in exchange for leniency. I'm sure there's much more to uncover, and it'll certainly be interesting to see where this goes.
Now, if this happens again, how will officials know that it's happening? Is there any specific thing they can be on the lookout for, or do officials have to rely solely on tips about stuff like this?
That's, it's a good question. It's kind of hard for me to say. I'm not an official. I don't receive that type of training, but I'm sure that they are receiving certain things to look for when they get their training, to look for this type of misconduct. It's really impacting, the sports world as a whole. And as the landscape changes, I'm sure they're receiving whatever training that they should be receiving.
And final question, this seems to be a real turning point and wake-up call for the NCAA. How will this scandal change things going forward in college sports, do you think?
It's an interesting question. I think the intersection of money and amateurism in college sports is really an evolving issue by the day. There are certainly parameters and penalties which have to be considered to bring a fair balance to the issue. Sports gambling aside, with lucrative NIL contracts out there, ease of transfer for student athletes through the portal without any real repercussion, et cetera. Student athletes these days are being treated more like professional athletes.
Right.
And the NCAA has to act to fix it. It won't be easy, but it's something that it certainly has to be done.
Raj Gadhok of Mandelbaum Barrett PC in Roseland, thank you so much for taking the time today and giving us some professional insight.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back. And now some of the action from Kean Athletics this past week that you might have missed. Men's basketball entered their game against Montclair State with a 6-2 conference record, setting up a marquee matchup on Saturday afternoon against the undefeated Redhawks. Guard Kareem Irby led the attack. He's been red hot with his shooting lately. Irby finished with 30 points, going 11 for 16 from the field. Daniel Dextres added 18 points and 9 rebounds as Kean gave the number 8 ranked team in Division III a strong fight throughout the entire game. After trailing by as many as 21, Kean cut the deficit to 12 with under 10 minutes to play in the second half. That was big thanks to Irby, who scored 19 of his 30 points in that half. Although their comeback effort fell short, this game further proved that the Cougars can hang with anyone, including some of the nation's best competition. The men will travel to Stockton for their next game on Wednesday. The second half of the Hoops doubleheader on Saturday featured the Lady Cougars facing Montclair State in their 9th conference game of the season. Freshman Michaela Desiree led Kean in scoring with 10 points, marking the second time this season she scored at least that many. Erica Mercedes scored 9 points off the bench, while Ray McClarty finished with a game-high 8 rebounds. The Redhawks beat the Cougars comfortably for their 11th win of the year. The ladies will look to rebound on Wednesday when they travel to play Stockton. Well, joining me now is a star volleyball player from Kean University whose team finished with a 30-6 record, and she was a big reason why. She earned several Player of the Week honors during the season and capped off the campaign as a second-team All-American. That star player is Cayley Morrison. Cayley, congratulations on a great year, and thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure to have you. Talk to me about how you first got interested in volleyball and how it led you on a path towards Kean University.
Honestly, growing up, my mom had me in a lot of different sports. I did dance, I did gymnastics. She's always kept me busy. And heading into high school, I needed to choose a sport. I did a volleyball summer camp going into 8th grade, and I fell in love with it ever since.
It's fantastic to hear. The rest is history. Now, you just mentioned her. One of your biggest influences in your life is your mother. Can you talk about the impact that she's had on you through the years?
She's always kept sports fun for me. She's never put any type of pressure on me when playing or going to club tournaments or even here at Kean. She's always made sure I had fun. And that's something that I brought into Kean and brought into my teammates to always just have fun and smile throughout the game.
Awesome.
So that's something that keeps me going.
Your number one fan. Now, what were some memorable games during this season?
I've had a lot. My most memorable one was when we played the last game to become regular season champs against Montclair. And the seniors had a different drive I've never seen before. I was a little bit scared that day. Playing with them on the court, they wanted to win so badly, and it was so exciting, and it pushed me to do better and pushed me to play that game and win, because they just wanted to win. They wanted to have a great senior year. So
yeah, and you had a great year. Now, talk about the relationship and camaraderie you have with the rest of those teammates. Is it like a sisterhood?
It's definitely like a sisterhood. We seeing each other every day. I never get tired of it. Anytime I'm having a bad day or anything, I walk into the locker room and somebody's doing something ridiculous, always making me laugh. We're so goofy and so funny. And even on the court when we're playing, it's not like it's a real game. It's not like I'm like, oh my God, I'm nervous, I'm stressed. I'm just having fun with my girls. So.
And that's probably why your team did so well this year. How does your team look as you head into next season? Are a lot of the players graduating, or is it going to be mostly the same?
We have a lot of seniors graduating, and we have mostly underclassmen standing up. The chemistry won't change, honestly. There's a lot of talent coming in and a lot of talent that we have now that hasn't been seen, but the NJAC should definitely be watching.
Now, I had the pleasure of interviewing your head coach, Don Perkins, last year. Talk about the influence he and the rest of the coaching staff have had on the team and you specifically.
He has had a big influence on me, especially the coaching staff. They honestly believed in me since day one as a freshman. They pushed me harder, and me and Don's relationship, honestly, is like best friends. I'm always joking around with him and putting his buttons, and he just stands there and laughs. So it's nice. And Jenna and Fox, they're great coaches as well. They've always pushed me and always believed in me since freshman year. And yeah.
It's always great to have coaches like that in your corner. Now, let me ask you this question. A lot of success comes with talent, but it also comes with hard work and dealing with adversity and getting knocked down and getting back up again and sticking it out till the end when others can't. What do you do to stay one step above the rest of the competition, and what's your motivation in doing that?
Honestly, I don't really get comfortable. I don't dwell on things that happened in the past, or if we lose a game or made a bad point, I don't try to let it stick with me. I try to learn from it and move past it.
And there is no better success and reasoning for that. Cayley Morrison, thank you so much for coming on today. Best of luck again, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, that'll do it for this week's show. I'll see you next Monday. For all New Jersey sports and news, head over to ONNJ.com.